Hi guys, so I'm just doing a quick comparison here between using a gel rollable pen on paper versus the digital equivalence of paper, that is a iPad Pro with a matte screen protector on it, the Onyx Boox Note Air, and the Remarkable 2. And the first thing I will say is if you're looking for pencil on paper, both in terms of the level of friction, the roughness to that, and the grippiness, and the sound, then, all the reviewers have already said it. The Remarkable 2 is incredibly closely aligned. I mean, it feels like pencil on paper. It really does. However, I don't particularly enjoy writing with pencil on paper, so that doesn't work for me. So looking at a few alternatives here, I'll go through and just explain to you also a bit of background. So I've been using an iPad Pro for a few months now. My work gave me this to work with, to use, and I love it. I've got the matte screen protector on here. It works really well for me. I love Notability's various little features that it has, such as the ability to have different colored lines, and you can have a dotted line as well. I absolutely love that. You can press and hold and it gives you a nice straight line wherever you want it, which is great for underlining or whatever. The highlighter, when you highlight something, you don't lose the contrast or the level of black. It doesn't, it kind of goes under what you're highlighting, what you've written, which is really, really nice. Notability has a couple of other really cool features, such as the fact that you can have the pages either one by one, like you would have normally, or you can also have them just running along. Seamlessly, so that they just scroll down as you go. And then when you get to the end, when you write on the next page, or take a note or whatever, it automatically creates another page for you, which is great. So you can just keep going and then you can scroll through all of that, or if you want to, you can also view it in the single page style. You can't do that with the two e-ink devices. Obviously you can't do that with a paper pad either, but I've gotten used to being able to write all the way down to the bottom of the page without being at the bottom, because you can be getting down here and it can be a struggle to write, so you can literally just bring it up. It might help if I go back to seamless. You can just bring it up and keep writing. And I don't know about everybody else, but I always find I write better towards the top of the page rather than towards the bottom. So that's quite nice that you can just keep going even though you're at the bottom of the page, but you can still view it page by page if you need to. The text conversion is really quite impressively good. So I've just got a bit of text here. I'll do a quick conversion. And it says iPad Pro. This is my usual style of, I should say, scroll. That's the only one it's missed. Let's see if it recognizes any of it. So quite impressive, really. I can convert that so that it shows up as text, or I can copy the text to clipboard. I had an accident recently which makes typing quite difficult for me recently, and being able to convert this handwriting to text is a little godsend. The other cool thing that the Notability app can do is it can actually take a recording of some like as you're talking and as you're writing, and as I write this, that's awful, I can then play back the recording and it'll show me what I was writing at that point. So I'll go to here, and as you're writing, and as I write this, and you can scroll through so it shows you where you were at the time, but you can also tap and it'll take you to where you were in the recording. You've got different speeds on the recording and so on, so you can slow it down or speed it up if you're taking lecture notes or anything like that. I mean, I don't know how good the microphone would be at picking up at distance, but I've tried it here in my room with my wife talking across at the other side of the room, and it worked absolutely fine. You can tweak the audio quality as well, so there is an equalizer in here somewhere. There you go, voice boost, which is quite good, so that's quite handy. But the downsides are it's got these straight edges which are a bit unpleasant when you're resting on. It does give you a glare. It does have a really bright reflection, as you can see, off any lights in the ceilings or off to an angle or anything like that. It's just not ideal for that kind of thing. And it's not like writing on paper. You know, it is still like very much like writing on semi-glass, if you can put it that way. The Note Air I've had for about a week now, and it's a lot less like writing on glass. It's still not perfect, but it's a lot better. It has handwriting recognition, so Onyx Boox Note Air. This is my usual style of scrawl. Let's see if it recognizes any of it. So it's actually picked up most. For some reason it didn't pick up the books, it picked up box. I thought that looks like 2 O's, but never mind. The other thing that I like is you can import templates, which you can't do on the iPad, for what the paper is supposed to look like. So if you look at the template that I'm using, I shared a post elsewhere that this has got this bit at the top and then space for writing, for example, the date, and then the actual pad with margin on the side. So I've been able to replicate that very, very closely so that I can do that. So I can write something up here, I can write something up here, and then I've got the margin down the side. That's just the way I like to work. But the fact that you can very easily implement that, and I actually was able to implement that very, very quickly, because all you need to do is create a PNG file or a PDF and, you know, plug in the USB cable to your PC and away you go, which is amazing. The other nice thing is that you can maximize to get rid of all this stuff on the side. So you're literally just writing on the paper. There's no distractive buttons or anything like that in the way or anything. The pen itself is awful. It's far too smooth. But what I did was I actually got myself a Lamy All-Star pen, which is also a lot thicker. The pen on the Onyx is almost identical to the pencil, so it's just too narrow for me. It's not ergonomically comfortable. So I got a Lamy, and I actually put the Remarkable nibs in there, and that is really nice. It's really smooth. It's more comfortable than writing on the iPad, not by much, but it is more comfortable than writing on the iPad, probably because the nib is slightly thinner. The Boox Note Air pen is an even thinner nib than the Remarkable. It's hard to see on here, but it is even thinner. Let's see if we can get it to focus. Oh, hello, come on. Yeah, there you go. So you can see this is the Boox here. It's an even thinner nib than the Remarkable, just at the end there. And that's what gives it that slightly smoother texture. But the interesting thing is that when you then use this on the Remarkable, I mean, it is like writing on paper with a gel rollerball. It's amazing. This pen, gel ink, and this Boox pen on the Remarkable are almost identical in feel. So there is that thing that the Remarkable's got going for it, which is that it's very similar to paper. Obviously, if you get the right nibs, you can also replicate whatever you're used to writing with pencil or gel pen or whatever. The Lamy obviously takes Remarkable nibs. It doesn't take the Boox nibs, or particularly these style of nibs. But what I found was that the Staedtler Norris Digital Jumbo has very, very similarly narrow nibs on it to the Boox. And honestly, I've done this test a few times now, and one time I'll say that the Staedtler is better, and another time I'll say that the Onyx is better. But it's so damn close to writing with a gel rollerball that I could live with it. So if I was going to pick just purely based on writing experience, there's no question I'd be getting the Remarkable 2, or keeping, sorry, the Remarkable 2 with the Norris Digital, and if I could get hold of one, the new Boox pen nibs. The Staedtler is slightly narrower than the Lamy pen, but it's still pretty comfortable. I've also got on order the new Boox triangle pen, so I'll see how that feels. I don't know what the nib is like on that either, but I'll do a comparison for sure. The other thing that the Note Air can do, and we'll put the iPad to a side, and really it's about these two devices. I should show you the glare as well. You can see there's the Note Air. I don't have a screen protector on. The Remarkable has some kind of screen protection on it already, which it diffuses that glare just a little bit more. If you were to put the screen protector on the Note Air, there's very little in it. I did a test when I first got it, but I will say that like everybody else has pointed out, getting that screen protector on there is awful. There are other alternatives, like getting an iPad matte screen protector and putting that on, and that would probably do the trick, and that's probably what I'll look at doing. But the Remarkable nib on a matte screen, whether it's the Remarkable screen or the iPad screen, is very frictiony. It's very grainy, and it's not nice. I don't like it. It's like writing with a pencil, and that's just not what I'm after. So I don't intend to put a screen protector on the Note Air, unless I was going to just use the Staedtler, although the Staedtler works really nicely even without that. It has the benefit of the pen, the eraser on the bottom as well. The Lamy has a button that you can press on the side here, so that'll do the same thing. The Boox pen doesn't have anything. The other thing I like about the Note Air is that you can stroke erase, so as well as being able to just erase part of what you've written, so you can do a mobile eraser where that will just erase where you're asking it to erase. You can also erase the whole stroke, or obviously you can select a whole area, a layer, and so on. The Remarkable doesn't have quite as many functions for erasing. You can erase an area by selecting it, or you can erase like a normal eraser, but you can't erase a whole stroke, which is frustrating. So you have to actually select what you want to erase. That's not great for me. The conversion to text, it can also convert to text. The Boox Note Air can convert to text and save it in the file. With the Remarkable, you have to actually send yourself an email with the text. So Remarkable 2, this is my usual style of screw C rather than scroll. Let's see if it recognizes any f.it. So it's got most of it. It's not quite as accurate as the Note Air. Of course, the other downside is you can't search that text, whereas you can on the Note Air, you can on the iPad. So for you could type the text that you're looking for and it would find it in the pad. The Remarkable also has one little frustrating thing that I've found, which is that the menu goes over the text, whereas with the Onyx you can have it minimize, so you're writing at the very edge, and then when you maximize you're still at the very edge, so you don't lose the margins. Whereas with the Remarkable, when you're writing, when you bring up the menu, you can't see what you've written. You can write in there, right, but you can't see it without hiding the menu, which is a little bit of a pain. It's a shame that they don't do what the Onyx does and resize to fit so you can see everything, even with the menu in place. The Remarkable is just a fraction thinner, so it's even more comfortable to use. They both have, you know, their various tools like highlighters and stuff. I have to say, from a geeky perspective, I love the pencil and the tilt function. which, you know, that's lovely, and you've got really good pressure sensitivity. Interestingly enough, depending on which of the other styluses you use, so like the Staedtler works really well with the pencil and it's got the ability to tilt and so on, but if I switch to using the ballpoint, maybe it wasn't the ballpoint, interesting enough, now it seems to be working fine. A moment ago it wasn't recognizing every note that I did with that, but it seems to be now. So, well, cool. Okay. Take that as a good thing. Oh, there you go. It's the Onyx Boox pen that doesn't work very well with anything other than the fine liner. And the pencil, it doesn't recognize it at all. Apologies, it wasn't the Staedtler, it was the Onyx Boox Note Air pen. Just doesn't recognize the pencil. Well, it does, but only barely, and it's impossible to tell here. And as you can see on the ballpoint pen as well, it's not very nice. Fine with the fine liner, so no worries there. Fine with things like selections and whatnot, but just not with anything else. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. If you want it to be exactly like writing with pencil on paper, Remarkable 2. If you want it to be exactly like writing with a gel ink pen on paper, Remarkable 2 with the Onyx Boox pen or the Staedtler nibs. I will give it a test to see whether I can fit them in the Lamy. But the reality is there's too many other features for me on the Note Air at this stage that if that's all it is in terms of difference in writing, then I'm probably going to give up the Remarkable 2. It has the ability to implement things a lot quicker. Everyone's saying that the Remarkable is super user-friendly coming from an Apple interface. But I actually found, even though I hate Android generally, I don't find it particularly intuitive. This is a lot more intuitive to me in terms of when you're interacting with your PC, for instance, in dragging stuff over. I can have OneDrive on here and it'll automatically copy across. And I've even got, because I've got OneDrive on the iPad, what I can actually do is I can then open up the OneDrive app on my iPad and I can bring up all those notes that I've written and typed and it'll show them up, no problem at all. And where I've tried to import them across to the Remarkable, it hasn't come out as well. So Sketchpad doesn't show up any of the pages. So